Hello and welcome to Top 5 Cool Drum Beats right here at Teach Music Academy with myself, Marcus Allen, on the awesome Roland VAD 506 electric drum kit. We have got an acoustic kit in the studio as well, which we'll be using for other videos, but I would prefer to use this one today just for a bit of difference. Do check out our channel. We've got some awesome other content from other instruments such as guitar, piano and bass available, and others coming in the future. Remember to like, share and subscribe to our content here on all the channels if you are interested in further information and updates. So let's dive straight in with my top 5 cool drum beats. So I've done a bit of a mix here. If you're a beginner just starting out or someone who's slightly more advanced, there's something in here for everybody, and I will elaborate slightly on some of the drum beats for you so that you can look at using them in different contexts through your playing later down the line. Okay, so the first and foremost beat we're going to do today is what's known, or as what I know it as anyway at least, is the rock beat or pop beat, or more commonly known in other places as the 8th note pattern. Sounds a little bit like this. Classic drum beat there, which you hear in a ton of different music. You hear it all the way from AC/DC through to Fleetwood Mac, Guns N' Roses, lots of rock songs, hence why it's probably adopted the name as the rock beat, and also all the way through to some light jazz and different applications as well. It's a really versatile beat, and you may have seen the videos before where you play this one beat all the way through for 5 minutes to about 150 different songs, and it fits with everything. It's a contemporary rock beat that we all know, and likely it's also the first beat you'll learn as a drummer whenever you have any lessons. So let's dive straight in. I'm going to break it down for you in really simple terms. We're going to keep it dead simple today, just to explain the different elements that are going on. You will need to understand how to count on a basic level, so I'm going to be describing 8th notes and quarter notes to you today. If you're not sure what they are, do check out our introductory series on drums, which is also on YouTube, or will be soon if it's not available right now. So you will see that we've got the hi-hat, the snare drum and the bass drum in play here, the 3 elements of the drum kit that you need to play this beat. I'm going to start with my right hand. If you're left-handed, you can do open-handed left hand or play your left hand on the hi-hat with the kit the other way around. And we're going to get our 8th note pulse rocking through here. So you can pick one to be any way you like. Beat 1's really important. So I'm going to go 1 and 2 and keep that loop in, okay? So just I'm going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's going to be the basic backbone to this rhythm. Now the quarter note interplays between the bass drum and the snare drum on beats 1, 2, 3 and 4. The snare drum on 2 and 4, the bass drum on 1 and 3. So I'm going to bring in the bass drum element with that now on 1 and 3. There is a PDF for this video which I'll write for you as well, and will be available underneath in the links below. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So you can hear now I'm playing the bass drum on beats 1 and 3 along with the hi-hat in the 8th note rhythm. The next element we're going to add in is the snare on the 2 and 4, and that will sound a little bit like this. 2, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And this is also known as the backbeat in most contemporary applications, okay? Put them both together with the hi-hat, you've got yourself the rock beat. Really simple, and this will get you playing in no time. It's a really good beat to play, and you can also play it varying tempos. Also on the ride cymbal. And also don't be afraid to put a crash on beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you want to get a bit more brave, you can put a crash on beats 2 and 4 as well. And that is my first beat for you for today, which is the basic rock or 8th note drum pattern. On to number 2 for you today, which is another classic. You hear it a lot in hip hop or funk applications, and it's a one-handed, and the reason I mention that is because it is with one hand, not with two. It's a one-handed 16th note rhythm. And now when we talk about whether it's a 16th note or an 8th note rhythm, we're normally referring to the subdivision we're playing on the hi-hat or the ride cymbal, or with what we call the lead hand. So obviously the notes underneath the rhythm are going to be played in maybe eighths or quarters here and there. But the lead rhythm is going to be subdivisionally in 16th notes, which you'll understand on a deeper level as we go into this beat. So we studied the rock beat a second ago, which has that kind of 8th note pattern, and all we're going to essentially do is double up them notes on the right hand and put the subdivision into 16ths rather than 8ths, which means for every quarter note there are now 4 notes and 16 notes per bar. If you're a little bit lost, like I mentioned earlier, do check out our introductory series, which will explain these things in a little bit more clarity for you, and come back and watch this video. So what we're going to do is take our 8th note pattern that we played earlier, and I'm going to go into the 16th note rhythm for you now. Now, I'm not going to use metronomes in this video. I think they're a really important tool for learning drums with, but for having fun and just elaborating and developing your musical palette, I would stay away and just have some fun with the groove itself. When you can play it confidently at a slow tempo, then bring in the metronome to refine it and make it sound tighter with any music you're going to play. But for now, we're going to keep it just playing it as normal, okay? So, 8th note pattern, 1 and 2 and 3. Now, what's going to happen here is the bass drum and snare drum are going to stay exactly the same on that quarter note pulse, and the quarter note pulse is not going to change. So 1 and 2, 3, 4, but I am going to double up the notes in my right hand, which will make this groove sound as if it's in a 16th note feel. One E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Now this groove here is pretty funky. It's using hip hop as well. And you'll notice that I'm using a slightly different technique on my right hand now called Moella, which is allowing my wrist to play up and down strokes to encourage that accented pattern that you hear on the right hand. Breaking down the hi-hat in a little bit more detail for you. So I'm not playing like this. This is super important that you don't do this. Okay? It's really not a good idea. You're going to end up with a really sore wrist and your arm is going to kill. So you've got to let that wrist become loose, okay? Almost as if there's no weight behind it at all. And what you're trying to do is get multiple strokes out of that one stroke just there. And the way we do that is you have this motion of down, up, down, up, down, up. Now you'll notice that the up stroke, this one here, is really, really quiet compared to the down stroke, which is more aggressive. And this is known as Moella technique. This gives us that nice momentum that we need in order to play the pattern consistently. You can speed it up and go as fast as you like. Same for the ride cymbal. Lots of different things you can do there with that technique, but for now, keep it as just 16ths and it'll keep chugging along underneath that pattern. That's what you're looking for. So we're going to play a 16th note pattern now on the hi-hat with some varying bass drum and snare drum rhythms underneath, so you can hear what you can do with this long term. And this is why I think it's my second cool drum beat, because I use this a lot when I'm playing funk or hip hop particularly, because it adds a really nice feel to the dynamic. So and there you have it. That was beat number 2. So it's time to bring up that big word now, syncopation. And whenever your drum teacher brings this up, you have a whole sheer load of panic coming across your face because you're now going to push the boat out into other areas of play. You're going to go away from that comfort zone of playing just on the beats, whether it be with bass drums and snares, to now playing off the beat while keeping the beat on the beat. Does that make sense? No, but I'll show you. So what we're going to do here is introduce you into the world of funk, and I'm going to take a really basic funk rhythm and show you how cool this can actually be by speeding it up and turning it also into drum and bass, which is a little trick for you later down the line. Now, in order to play syncopation, you do need to have a little bit more of advanced experience on the kit. This isn't something you can just jump in and do straight away. You might be able to play the basics of the pattern, but understanding it on a more fundamental level is really important before you progress through this. So if I'm using the word syncopation, it basically means that I'm playing on offbeats through the rhythm with the snare drum. I'm going to keep the bass drum fairly standard here because I don't want to complicate things too much, but obviously once you've got the hang of this, take it and play around with it as much as you like. Have a go at different bass drum patterns, different snare drum patterns, and see if you can come up with your own through the process. Remember as well, you can play the rim if you want to, or rim shots on these notes, particularly on the backbeat on the 2 and 4. The thing I learned with funk is making sure that you get the groove to really, really sit dynamically in the pocket. So on the 2 and the 4, you really want to make sure that rim shot is coming through nice and clear. On an acoustic snare drum, this might be slightly more prominent, but this kit does replicate that quite well. There you go. So make sure you hit that rim shot with at least 2/3 of the stick or 1/3 of the stick down from the tip, that sort of area, the nice thick chunky part just here, and that's going to give you a really solid sound. Okay. Then dynamically speaking, on what we would call the skip notes, these are the notes that are dynamically quieter through the rhythm. You're going to play these really lightly with the tip of the stick as a tap stroke on the snare. If you don't grasp these two things with the left hand, the groove won't sound, well, I'll play it for you actually in a second so you can hear what I'm trying to get at, but it won't sound great. It won't sound rhythmical. It will just sound like a bit of a mess, okay? So we've got the dynamic of loud and the dynamic of quiet. And if you need to sit there and practice these two strokes, I would as well. So the rhythm I'm going to choose for you here is going to be this. And with the count over the top, 1, 2, and a 3 and 4, and 1 and 2, and a 3 and 4, and 1, 2, a 3 and 4, and 1. So the E and the A of that rhythm, if you follow me to this moment here, are basically the skip notes, and the 2 and the 4 are the loud notes. If we take away the fluff, all that noise, we're just going to be left with this: 1 and 2, and a 3 and 4. And stop, okay? Now, I mentioned earlier that I would play this all dynamically loud, which is great in some applications, but not for this. And this is how it's going to sound if you do that. And then back to the way I want you to do it. And you would probably agree that the second version sounds a little bit more groovy, which is what we're going for. So for my cool beat number 3, and the reason I think it's quite cool is because you can use it in both funk, rock and drum and bass, which I'll show you in a moment. It's that funky groove with that syncopated offbeat snare rhythm with the skip notes in. That's a bit of a mouthful, but I'm sure you know where I'm going. So this is transcribed in the PDF for you. I'll play it now a few times through. And the great thing with this is quite versatile, so you can play it on the ride, you can apply it on the hi-hats, lots of different places to go with this. So 1, 2, 3, yeah. And if you want to expand with the bass drum, you can do so as well. So next part 2, or the next part of this beat, is playing it at a much faster tempo, which inadvertently makes it into a different style of music. Now, you're not going to hear James Brown playing it, okay, because it's not going to happen. So What happens here, if we take this groove and take it to 180, 190 BPM, we start to enter the territory of drum and bass, which is really, really great for drums. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you want to get good at playing grooves like this, it's a really essential style of music to listen to, and jungle music as well. And this is where you get this level of playing that goes from, okay, I can play a funk beat, now I'm going to blitz it, okay? So you take this rhythm, and what I'll do now is I'll play that funk groove from slow, and I'll take it faster and faster and faster and faster and faster until it reaches that drum and bass tempo, and you'll hear the dynamic change all the way through. And there you have it. So if you can play that, you get a thumbs up from me. Welcome to Cool Drum Beat number 4. And this one's a bit of a dual one because we're going to be talking about regular time and half-time shuffles. Now, if you're not sure what shuffles are, don't worry too much. Just understand that they are a tripletized groove. And what I mean by that is our main feel is triplets underneath the subdivision. So we're going to be counting in 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, rather than 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Shuffles work really well with swing. They work really well with anything in 6, anything in 12, anything with that kind of triplet feel, you'll be well away with the shuffle. So the first thing you need to look at with the shuffle, the way I break it down for most of my students, is by playing a 6/8 or a 12/8 rhythm, but with all of the hi-hat notes there in that 8th note sequence, and we'll count the triplet all the way through, and then we'll drop the note which makes the groove turn into a shuffle, okay? I'll play it on the ride cymbal just because it's easier for you to see on the camera. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3. And just follow me through. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1. Okay, so you see where we're going with that. That is not a shuffle just yet, but it is a triplet groove that we would play in 6 or 12. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take away every single trip note from that rhythm, and that will inadvertently turn this groove into a shuffle. And as we speed the shuffle up, you'll start to see why it's called a shuffle. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, let 2, let 3, let 4, let 1, okay? That's how the groove sounds without the trip there. We took it away. It's gone for a trip elsewhere, okay? So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4. And that is a classic shuffle. Okay, so once you've grasped that, you can then take that rhythm, play it around the ride, play it around the hi-hat, and start to speed it up. And you'll notice that this will fit really well with blues and other styles of music in a similar category. Same sort of process again with my wrist. And you can elaborate on this groove as well, but for the purpose of this today, we're just going to keep it steady. 1, a jab, a bat, a bat, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. And that's how you can play your shuffle. Now, onto a half-time shuffle, it's essentially the same thing, but you're dragging that bar out over a longer period of time. So if you listen to the likes of Jeff Beccaro, John Bonham, they all use this sort of style of playing. And if you play a half-time shuffle quickly, it has a really, really profound effect on the feel. So I'll take you and show you now. I'll go from a regular time shuffle into a half-time shuffle so you can hear the differences between the two. So you've got regular time shuffle here, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1. And into a half time. So you're not actually playing anything differently, you're just spreading the notes out further. And if you play a half time shuffle, then speed that up, you have this effect. If you start to put other notes underneath that as well, and you start to elaborate on the trips that we spoke about earlier that aren't there, but if you play them on the snare drum, you've got yourself a classic Jeff Porcaro, John Bonham-esque style halftime shuffle there. And if you speed that up, you then get something similar to what would be Rosanna or Good Times, Bad Times by Led Zeppelin. And that's basically how you can take these grooves and make them into your own, and also by copying other people, you can start to understand where they've come from in the musical history timeline. It's important to know that Jeff Porcaro and John Bonham are both prolific shuffle players who both play in groupings of 3 quite often, not in every track. Particularly John Bonham, he's a sextuplet, 16th note triplet god. Do check him out because he's awesome. And what you want to also do is understand that shuffles can be used in most contemporary applications as well. For instance, as a modern drummer myself, I sometimes like to mix things up. So I'll play a standard straight groove and throw in a shuffle. Just like that. And that's one way you can impress your mates, trust me. Thank you for listening to groove number 4. And right up next, we've got our bonus groove, which is groove number 5. And on to beat number 5, which in its own respect isn't its own drum beat, it's something called linear phrasing. But I thought I'd bring this up for you today because it's a little bit different, and hence why it's a bonus groove for today as well. So if you don't know what linear means, it basically means not playing any 2 drums at the same time and creating a groove out of that as well. So what we're going to do is take a really, really simple linear groove, and I'll show you how to play that in just a second, and try and make it sound as if it should fit with the song, okay? So you're probably thinking, well, how on earth do I play that without playing anything else at the same time? So it's simple. You take your beat 1 on the bass drum and on the hi-hat, 2 on the snare and on the hi-hat, and follow that pattern through the whole groove. This might sound a little bit similar to reggae in some respects, because in reggae you accent the and on the hi-hats quite often, but it is in fact a linear groove. And that groove within its own right has a place in music. The reason I'm mentioning this is because it will make you think more critically as a drummer. So if you then think, well, I need to add some extra bass drums and snare drums into that to complement the music, you're not going to have that safety net of your right hand playing underneath. So you might have something now like this. And what I've done in the example below is I've given you a few of these in the PDF for you to have a go at. And they're really, really good ways to break your coordination up as a player. So what I'm going to do now is play a few examples of linear phrasing for you to finish off the video. And remember, if you've enjoyed it today and you found the content useful, do like, share and subscribe to our content on all the social channels that we have. And make sure you tune in for the next video and check out our other instruments. Remember, if you've enjoyed today's video, thank you for watching. Do like, share and subscribe to our content on all our social channels. I've been Marcus Allen with Teach Music Academy, and tune into the next video soon. See you later.